Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on August the 8th, 2016, and, well, you know, this Raw, it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. Actually, it was quite good. I did enjoy certain matches. There were just a couple things that, well, they irked me a little bit. I'll go ahead and do it. For one, the Cesaro-Sheamus feud. We've seen it before, and this whole aspect of the brand split was supposed to bring new feuds together and everything, or at least feuds we hadn't seen in quite some time. And we saw a Sheamus, I believe, a Sheamus and Cesaro feud somewhere around last year. I think, in some way. At least I know they had matches. And again, they had another really good match. We've seen it before. The one good thing about it was they, for whatever reason, didn't do 50-50 booking. Though they did technically do it later that night with everything, with the main event. And I'll talk about that one a little bit later. But they had Cesaro go over in the match again, which kind of shocked me because, well, you're thinking, okay, it's like, okay, Cesaro and Sheamus one more time. This means since Cesaro won, now Sheamus got to win. And for once, they didn't go that route. But they did go that route with the Titus O'Neil, Darren Young storyline. And again, it's like, so basically it was tick for tack. Darren Young lost by the tight pulling last week. He wins this week by the tight pulling. 50-50 booking at its best. That's going to get people over so much. Now, the crazy thing is that, well, maybe Backlund technically didn't see Darren Young cheat, but he doesn't go nuts on Darren Young cheating as he did with Titus O'Neil the week before. So, well, I mean, we'll see if they do anything with that. But they're obviously going somewhere down the road. But like I said, those are like my little qualms about the show. Let's get into everything else throughout the entire night. You start off the show with Enzo and Cass. They started going out there cutting their promo on Jericho, or Enzo was cutting his promo on Jericho. This does bring Jericho out and does bring out his new tag team partner, which is Kevin Owens. So it's now Kevin Owens and Jericho going after Enzo and Cass. So technically, shouldn't Enzo and Cass go after the club because they were still kind of in a feud? Oh, wait, club's going after New Day. You know, it'll eventually work itself out. Hopefully it'll eventually work itself out. They go back and forth for a little while, and Enzo and Cass basically going with a bunch of innuendo jokes throughout the entire time. Not a bad segment here, though. I thought all four guys ended up doing really well on the mic. Cass probably still the weakest, but still did pretty well on his own to go along with everything. This eventually leads into, I guess, the scheduled match, which was Enzo versus Chris Jericho. Relatively decent match. They end it in DQ with after Kevin Owens continually tries to interfere and everything. Big Cass just eventually goes in there and boots Jericho in the face. So they give Jericho the win via disqualification. They make the match for SummerSlam. Enzo and Big Cass versus Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. And that was pretty much where you were expecting them to go with how things have been working beforehand. In a backstage segment, you had Mick Foley, who was talking on the phone with Stephanie McMahon. Sasha Banks comes in. They do a little joke. It's like, oh, the boss just came in. It's like, Steph's like, Vince? No, Sasha. It's like, and she's like, oh. One of those oh moments. But the promo between Sasha and Mick was about Sasha saying, I was like, oh, why don't you just make this a handicap match and everything so she could keep an eye on Dana Brooke. And then Mick Foley decides to make a match with Dana and Sasha, and basically if Sasha loses, that latter, what she said, would happen. If she wins, she goes ahead and he goes ahead and bans Dana Brooke from ringside for the SummerSlam match. The match itself, a relatively quick one. One little qualm there is like, technically there should have been a disqualification. I guess in the terms of if you go out of kayfabe and what the technical rules would be. Charlotte struck Dana, so wouldn't that be a DQ causing Dana to actually win? Because it was done right in front of the ref's face. So one of those little nitpicking things that you see is like, ref, why couldn't you just been looking the other way? to basically go along with the storyline. Sasha wins in a rather quick match, and of course they're gonna basically put this off as now Dana's not gonna be allowed at ringside at SummerSlam. It's just a one-on-one match between Sasha and Charlotte, so that's probably going to be a better way of going, that they're going to have a full match where you don't have to play some kind of interference role or anything like that to go along with everything. You also had Braun Strowman going up against, yet again, another local jobber. They call him Jarrell Nelson this week. The real good thing about this one, I like how there's so many times where, and we've seen it throughout this show, is like where they keep doing the same things over and over, and certain things like either 50-50 booking or feuds we've seen before with matches we've seen before, and things like that. We saw that early in the show. They've been changing this up a bit, obviously. The past 2 weeks, you had 2 different separate interviews while Braun Strowman was entering the ring, and they gave off 2 different, like one gave off as a kind of confident type person. It's like, I've got to find a way to win this. The next week is like, I'm in this for the money. They literally said I would get $1,000 if I did this match. $5,000 if I won. This week, you had the interview take place backstage, and the jobber itself, like, the jobber gets an actual entrance. Better than what Darren Young and Titus O'Neil got in the earlier portion of the show. But Byron's backstage trying to interview him, and this guy's just like, I've got to do this. Just that look of utter fear in his face before having to go out there, which plays off perfectly. And you get that whole aspect that he walks down the ramp and he's like in complete terror of having to face Braun Strowman. This works really good for the Braun Strowman character. I know they don't plan on him ever really talking all that much. They probably need to get him a mouthpiece of some kind somewhere down the road here, but that was actually a pretty good segment. Again, I like these jobber segments, and the fact that they're kind of changing them up a little bit here and there each week makes it come off a little bit better as well. You also had a match with the Dudleys and against Neville and a tag team partner I was choosing. This was set during the pre-show, if you had watched that, where the Dudleys confronted Neville about New Era, all the New Era stuff and everything in that sense, saying they dominate every era that they're in, and then they challenge him to find a tag team partner, which he does in Sin Cara. I guess they're going to stick with the Lucha theme song for both Sin Cara and Kalisto. You figure one of those two would have to get rid of the song, and I know Sin Cara had one in the past. At least the character Sin Cara, not the aspect that this is the second variation of Sin Cara. But it's interesting that both of them are keeping the Lucha music. I guess they haven't come up with a new theme song for either one of them yet, so we'll see if that ever happens in any way. As for the match itself, it wasn't bad, but it really doesn't do much of anything outside of putting Neville over a little bit more and further solidifying that the Dudley Boys are, well, pretty much a nostalgia act on the show right now, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is at this point in time. I do like the look that Bubba, I almost said Bully, because he's not Bully Ray anymore. He's Bubba Ray again. But Bubba Ray gave Devon for losing the match. Maybe it's a subtle notice. Maybe it's a potential of Bubba splitting off from Devon, doing a singles push or something like that somewhere down the road here. So we'll see if that's actually going to be anything, but I'm not sure on that in any way, shape, or form. You had after this, you also had the Rusev and Lana wedding celebration. Oh my God, it's a wedding celebration and there's a cake in the ring. You already know where this is going. You really already know where this is going. It's the WWE. It's wrestling in general. There's a cake. It must be destroyed. So they Rusev and Lana come out there teasing the fans and everything in that sense about the wedding, the wedding that they had weeks ago, and that they're going to relive the celebration now. Roman Reigns eventually interferes, and he wants to do, and he was like, He's trying to play off as Russo's best man, trying to play off in a way jokingly. And again, I'm not a big fan of joking Roman Reigns. I'm a bigger fan of Roman Reigns that comes out there and just, beats people up. Basically in that sense. But his promo this week wasn't that bad, but man, did it make him come off as a heel in every way. I mean, obviously that makes him come off as a little bit face because Rusev and Lana were just rubbing it in the fans' faces. But man, the stuff that he was doing also made him come off as a complete jerk in every way, shape, or form for crashing it to go along with everything. Eventually, he challenges Rusev to a U.S. title match. He says no. They start brawling, and Roman knocks Rusev into Lana, and into the cake she went. And like I said, you already know where that's going. If there's a cake out there in any way, it's just got to go. It's almost as inevitable as the Spanish announce table getting destroyed at a pay-per-view. At least for the longest time, that's how it used to be. In some ways, it is now, too, to go along with it. Though, usually, it's not just their announce table. It's like every announce table gets destroyed now in some way, shape, or form. But I digress on that one. You kind of knew where they were going with this. You have a bit backstage with Mick Foley, Rusev, and Lana, where Rusev's trying to, like, what are you going to do about what Roman Reigns did? And they make the title match for SummerSlam, Rusev versus Roman Reigns. And they make that match a little bit soon, because I'll talk about that one again a little bit later because of what happened earlier in the show to go along with everything. You have Seth Rollins and Finn Balor doing their own separate promos. Seth Rollins' promo was in the ring. Finn Balor's was a pre-recording. So Rollins was basically talking up everything about what he felt about Finn Balor, or in everything like that, everything in that sense, like the demon side, and it's like what's his name actually mean, and everything in that sense. It was not a bad promo here. I felt like it was a little weird because you're used to seeing promos in the ring like that get interrupted in some way, but they don't actually do that. They show something off a little bit later on with Finn Balor, him talking about it's like what each one of these things means to him and everything in that sense. I thought the promo from Finn as well, though obviously pre-recorded could come off a lot better, actually did come off rather good here. Does a good job of explaining everything, explaining a little bit of the demon and everything like that, which you expect that they will show off at SummerSlam, though they are plugging next week that Seth Rollins is going to call out the demon side of Finn Balor, and it's like I have a feeling they're going to do something for that in the sense of some kind of fake thing to go along with everything, because they're probably not going to have Finn Balor don the paint before SummerSlam in any way. So we'll see where they go with everything on that sense. You had the club. Actually, you had a segment beforehand where Puff Daddy was talking with Mick, gives him like tickets and everything. This is the only time he shows up on the show too. He's supposed to be the special guest star on the show. This is the only time he actually shows up. So that's actually kind of weird. Usually they make multiple appearances throughout the night. They even had like a Scooby-Doo plug for their new DVD and everything like that, which was an okay skit. It was done with the Golden Truth. You know where they're going with Golden Truth. They are supposed to be the comedy act on the show, at least at this time. So they did that bit for the new Scooby-Doo thing that's coming out. But you had a bit with Mick Foley, Puff Daddy, and Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, New Day. And they were going through, it's like, hey, how's Big E, all that kind of stuff. They make it even to the reference, like, because Puff Daddy just, like, blatantly is like, so how's Big E's nuts? Like, technically not supposed to say that, but it's Puff Daddy, so who cares? Who cares moment. So they go through that whole little shtick, which does eventually come up with the club playing a backstage role as doctors, a pre-recorded skit as doctors, and they're calling what they did to Big E ring post-itis. as they were going through all the symptoms and everything like that to go along with it. And sadly enough, this was corny. It was bad, but it was actually kind of funny. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, they knocked this one out of the ballpark. This is pretty good. They were playing doctors. They even come out with the doctor's coats for their match with Kofi, with Luke Gallows' match for Kofi Kingston to go along with it. Which that match itself, like I said, everything to this was nothing like. The match itself meant really nothing to it. It was all their setup for the fact that the club's going up against the New Day for the tag team titles, and they're even playing it off that Big E's out for an indefinite period of time, so they don't even know if Big E's going to be able to be at SummerSlam. So they're playing off that aspect that he won't be at SummerSlam. It'll be only Xavier Woods and Kofi to defend the tag team titles. Not a bad segment. I actually kind of enjoyed this one. This came off rather well. It ended where they were going to do the exact same thing to Kofi Kingston. Xavier, after Luke Gallows won the match, they were going to do the exact same thing to Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods chases them away with a chair. So that's how that segment ended out going. Like I said, not a bad segment. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. The final segments of the night was the whole aspect that outside of the promo that they had from Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton's match, which was actually kind of good. It was just both of them kind of going through history of both Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar. So nothing new out of what you would have expected there, but a relatively well put together promo for both sides there. But you also had the whole aspect of Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley. Mick Foley invites Daniel Bryan to Raw. So they come out there towards the end of the show, and it's like, I'm thinking in my head, it's like, we're really going to end the show with this? With the GMs in the ring and everything in that sense. So they're doing their back and forth and everything. Bryan's playing like this complete joking around with everything and trying to almost put down Mick in some way, shape, or form throughout the entire promo. While it was going about that, while that was going about, it was like Mick was like, "You need to be serious for just a few seconds here," because like Daniel Bryan was, cracking jokes the entire time, or inside of there. Rusev comes out, which when they were starting to talk about the Universal title, I love the fact that Rusev did this. Actually, when he comes out there and he gets in Mick Foley's face, he says, "You don't need another champion. You have Rusev. You have the United States champion." I love that because it puts that title over just a little bit more. It just puts the title over a little bit more in that sense. He gets interrupted by Cesaro, and Cesaro's kind of going out there demanding his title match because he's beaten Sheamus twice now. It's like, "Are you a man of your word, Mick?" And it was like, you even have a bit from Daniel Bryan. It's like, if it means anything, I feel like you're being underutilized, and you have Mick just like, "Stay out of it, Bryan." And then he does make the match for right then and right there, Rusev versus Cesaro for the United States title. It's like, okay, this is how they're ending the show. Pretty good match from Rusev and Cesaro. It ends kind of the way you would have expected it because, well, guess what? They're still continuing on with this Sheamus and Cesaro feud. So Sheamus comes out there and pretty much distracts, and then eventually Brogue kicks Cesaro, which cost him the match and everything in that sense. And they end the show with Roman Reigns doing his bit that he usually does the Big Show, which is run down the entire rampway and then just do this giant spear, and he does it to Rusev to end the show to go along with it because obviously it's going to be Rusev and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam for that U.S. title. So that they wanted to do something there. So guess who ended the show? Yeah, they're still pushing Roman like he's the main event guy, even though he's going after the mid-card title. Well, actually, they're kind of going back there now with that, after what they had been doing to him beforehand. But overall, not a bad Raw this week. I thought it was it might have been a little bit less than last week, but overall, it came off as a pretty good show. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. It was pretty good. You had some good skits, some good promos, and good stuff building into the SummerSlam show. There was just a couple of things that kind of irked me here and there, but that's, when you have a 3-hour show, if it's only like a couple things that might, be considered relatively bad, that's not a bad way of going about things. So, with that being said, that was my review for Monday Night Raw this week. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.